This is ContraZoom,
where we go back and forth about film.
I'm Dakota Arsenault.
And I'm Rachel Ho.
On today's show, we are continuing our A24 retrospective. This is our fourth edition of the series. You can listen to episode 169, Spring Breakers, 159, The Green Knight, or go all the way back to 108, A History of A24 Films, to get the full backstory on the company. Today, we are looking at the 2013 Sofia Coppola directed film, The Bling Ring. The film is based on a March 2010 Vanity Fair expose called The Suspects Wore Louboutins, written by Nancy Jo Sales. It was based on a group of already rich teenagers from Hollywood who broke into celebrities' houses and stole a few $1 million worth of clothing, jewelry, art, and cash. In the era of Laguna Beach, The Hills, The Simple Life, Punk'd, The Girls Next Door, The Surreal Life, and Jersey Shore was absolute idolatry of celebrity culture and socialites. People were praised for being young, rich, and attractive for the sake of just having those qualities. While the film was somewhat fictionalized, the actual victims of home invasions like Paris Hilton, whose house was actually used for filming, Lindsay Lohan, Rachel Bilson, Orlando Bloom, and Miranda Kerr, Audrina Patridge, and others were present in the script. Before we go deeper into The Bling Ring, I want to welcome returning guest Naomi Wada-Platt, who was last heard on episode 155, Toronto Japanese Film Festival. Naomi is a YouTuber who mostly talks about Japanese culture and politics in both English and Japanese, and is the president of the Oscar Isaac Thirst Club. Welcome back, Naomi. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me again. Thank you so much for the title. I feel so honored and seen. Thank you.
And I am correct in understanding that you recently had to beat out Jessica Chastain for the president of the Oscar Isaac Thirst Club?
I mean, it was rough. There was some blood drawn, but I mean, the title falls to the rightful person, and it is right. So deal with it, Jessica.
All right. Well, I'm so glad to hear that you are back and you're happy about that, and you've resumed the rightful position there. Rachel, I'm very excited to do our next A24 movie. How are you feeling today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you, Dakota? How's things?
Not too bad. I'm excited. This is kind of the first A24 retrospective we've done with a third person, so it's going to be a bit of a new thing for us. Back on the very first episode that we did, the what was that movie called? The something Charles Swan III?
Inside the Mind of Charles Swan III. A glimpse inside the mind. It was just a glimpse. It wasn't fully inside.
The curtain wasn't fully pulled
Close
back.
enough.
Yeah. Which means the title is as memorable as the film itself, because woof, that movie was not memorable at all. But something really fun that we did was we did our A24 4 questions that you and I both took some time to answer. But now that we have a guest, I figure we should probably extend the invite, don't you?
I guess if we have to. No, yeah, we should, because I'd love to hear Naomi's thoughts on this. I love her opinions on movies. I enjoy all of her videos. So I'd like to hear what she has to say about A24.
Yeah, so I sent you these questions, Naomi, and you seemed excited about answering them, especially considering my previous allusion to you being the president of the Oscar Isaac Thirst Club, who he himself has been in several A24 movies. So the very first question is, what are your top 3 A24 films?
So, okay. I kind of have 2 answers to that, but I'm going to be honest. I'm going to go with my heart. Okay, so my top 3 A24 films are Midsummer, or is it Midsommar?
Yeah.
Next is
great. You start right off to good start. Good start.
Yay! And second is The Farewell. And the third is, drumroll please. Actually, no, don't do it. Ex Machina, because
yay,
Oscar Isaac.
Shocker. Is it the dance sequence alone?
I know, right? Yeah, I mean, that scene is just so like honestly, when people talk about who seems like, from what movie does the actor seems like they're having most fun, and people are like, oh, that scene from Ex Machina with Oscar Isaac and Kyoko, and I'm like, yo, bitches, you got it right. It was a cultural reset. So
cultural reset. I agree with that.
He changed.
I know. I agree with that.
He changed his plane.
It's a damn good movie, and he's really, really good in it as well, I will say.
Even though, I don't like that, techno-orientalism depicted in the film, and how Kyoko is portrayed. I mean, he looked good in that film. So I have to, be honest with my heart.
He can rock
Yeah.
That's fair.
a shaved head really, really well. Not everybody can, because some people have weird looking heads, but obviously Oscar can because he's perfect.
Exactly, precisely. Not just pretty and gorgeous and thick and everything, but luscious too. But he's damn good.
Did you just say "and thick"? Did I hear that right? Okay. Yeah, no.
With 4 C's.
I agree. Especially if anybody's seen Dune out there. Yep. He's
Are we going to talk about
it? He's a thick boy. He's a real thick boy.
Yeah. Thick indeed. Whew.
I feel like I'm going to have
to put
my
room just got it hotter.
Not safe for work warning on this episode.
For sure. Sorry, I will tone it down. No, I won't.
All right. Well, question 2. What was your introduction to A24? What was the first A24 film you had seen?
It was actually Midsommar. Obviously, I've watched A24 films before Midsommar, but I haven't really paid attention to production companies until 2018. But so when Midsommar came out in 2019, everyone's like, yo, A24 did it again. They came out with another crazy film. And I was like, who the fuck is A24? And I saw the list of movies that they produced and realized that some of the movies that I love are indeed A24 films. So Midsommar is my jam.
Nice. Well, you made Rachel very happy.
I think that's a really common thing about people getting introduced to A24. It's just you start watching a bunch of movies that you really like, and then it just clicks all of a sudden that it's all by the same, you see the same logo at the beginning of every movie. And I think that's really cool, because you don't normally, I don't know. I think we talked about this before, where it's if you see Warner Brothers, you don't necessarily go, oh, interesting, Warner Brothers, I should really look into them. That sounds like an interesting thing. But because A24 at the time was still, pretty new, and it's still gaining fans every day now, right? It's a lot of people are getting introduced to it. The Green Knight, I know, was massive. I know I wasn't the biggest fan of it, but yeah, it was. I know.
How dare
I was okay with it.
I'm kidding.
It was
whatever. I'm still processing that, Naomi.
It was fine. All right, it was fine.
Just wait till we have Callum on here. He just screams the Wicker Man, and I'll just respond the Green Knight.
Hey, Wicker Man's great. I wouldn't say Wicker. Okay, continue. Let's go to the next question.
All right,
let's not do this 3. Right now, Dakota.
We will not rehash this yet. We'll save that for our best of 2021 episode.
Oh, Lord. Can't wait for that already.
All right. Question 3. What director, dead or alive, would make a good A24 film that does not already have one released by them or made by them?
Okay. Karen Kusama, who directed The Destroyer a couple years ago, and Elvira Lind, who directed The Letter Room, also spouse of Oscar Isaac. I support that lady, the household so much. And I thought that those two will be the only directors, but this morning I just could not deny myself thinking about Cary Joji Fukunaga, the director of Maniac and No Time to Die. Even though I have this weird love-hate relationship with them, I'm just I need to see them directing an A24 film. What do you think?
I think I think those are all really interesting answers, and I'm thinking about it. Cary Joji Fukujima, he's grown in stature, especially doing a Bond film. I am sort of curious. He's done a great job with 2 TV shows, the first season of True Detective and then Maniac. Both of them kind of have that smaller, intimate quality while also having a bigger universe. I think if he sort of translate that to just a direct movie, I think he'd do a really interesting job with that. I agree with you where I'm not always on his wavelength, but he always has some interesting ideas. So I would be curious to see what he would do in the sort of milieu of an A24 film.
Right?
I really like the
A24. Listen to us.
Sorry, I was just saying I really like the Karen Kurosawa shout out, because I think she's amazing. I think she's a really, really underrated, because she did Girl Fight. That was her first movie, I think, back in the day, and that was Michelle Rodriguez. It was her very first acting role, if I'm not mistaken. So for both of them, I believe it was their debuts, and that movie is sick. If anybody hasn't, it's pretty old now, I think, but if anybody hasn't seen that one, if you want to see Michelle Rodriguez before she was Letty, go on and and check that one out because it's really, really amazing. And I always felt like she should have gotten kind of bigger, I don't know, bigger movies and things like that. Or maybe not even bigger movies, just a better opportunity. But Destroyer was really good though.
Yeah, she followed after Girl Fight, she followed up with Aeon Flux and Jennifer's Body, both kind of like pretty big genre films that tanked really hard, and now are both kind of looked back with a different lens, especially Jennifer's Body. I think it's really being reevaluated. So if they had probably been the hits at the time that they are looked at as now, she probably would be someone that's a lot bigger. But yeah, I definitely agree with what you're saying there, Rachel.
Jennifer's Body, I'm glad that that's kind of coming around now, because I think that one was very, I think it had a lot to do with, because it was Megan Fox and like the reputation she had at that time. And I mean, she still kind of has that today. But yeah, I think that kind of painted the movie into a certain light.
And being
that movie
written by Diablo Cody as well.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, for sure.
But those are great picks. I really like those, and I think that kind of gives us a lot to sort of think on of like what would that look like and hope for in the future. But the last question I've got is, it's a really philosophical one that doesn't really have an answer. But to you, what makes an A24 film?
For me, it's that what the fuckness, both in like, what the fuck, this movie is like beautiful or great, and what the fuck is going on in this house, like what the fuck. So, you know, it has to have that twinge of darkness and be thoroughly beautiful. That's my take on definition of A24 film.
Very succinct and perfect. Very succinct and perfect, I think. Well, it is. I mean, like, we were talking about A24, or not A24. Obviously, we are talking about A24. We were talking about Green Knight, and that one is a big, like, what the fuck at the end of the movie. And it's either a what the fuck that works with you, or it's a what the fuck that doesn't.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's a great way of looking at it. And it doesn't have to always work for you, but the fact that it's sort of eliciting that sort of reaction is really what I think they're striving for.
Yeah, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Well, awesome. I'm excited that we now have a second person to have answered these questions and have their own insight into the world of A24 that's different than you and I, Rachel. But I figure we're here to talk about the Bling ring, so let's get into it. I'm going to talk a bit about some behind-the-scenes stuff, and then we'll sort of review it a little bit.
It's my homie Mark.
Hey.
Hi, I'm Nikki. This is Sam. Hi.
Oh my God, that's Paris Hilton. That's Kirsten Dunst. I just think we wanted to be a part of, like, the lifestyle that everybody kind of wants.
Hey, I can be the answer. I'm ready to dance when the vampire.
Paris Hilton's hosting a party in Vegas tonight.
Where does she live? Do you think we could find a way in?
I don't know.
Come on, let's go to Paris's. I want to rob.
I was in the 2
This film came out on June 14th, 2013, and was directed by Sofia Coppola, making this the second Coppola family film released by A24 after the very first one, A Glimpse Inside the Mind of Charles Swan III, which now that I'm reading my notes, I can clearly remember, and was made by Sophia's brother Roman. The film has the cast of Katie Chang as Rebecca, this gang's ringleader, Israel Broussard as Mark, the main character who we see most of the action from, Emma Watson as Nikki, a friend of the two who joins in on the robberies later on, Tassia Farmiga as Sam, a girl who lives with Nikki and manages to not get arrested after not being caught on camera like everyone else. Claire Julian as Chloe, a friend who is the least involved with the robberies and often only acts as a watch person. And Leslie Mann as Laurie, who is the mother to Nikki and guardian to Sam. A bit about the plot is Mark, a lonely and confused gay teenage boy, starts at a new high school where he ends up befriending Rebecca, who spends her time getting stoned and partying with her friends. After stealing from acquaintances they know who are not at home, the duo start to get bolder as they use websites such as TMZ to learn which celebrities are out of town, like Paris Hilton, to see if they can break into her home. Through simple Google searches, they find celebs' addresses and schedules and begin stealing from rich socialites they adore on TV. They eventually rope in friends Nikki, Sam, and Chloe as they get less careful and more reckless. The more they steal, the harder they party, spending their money on bottle service at clubs and cocaine. Since they're already rich, if they don't wear what they steal, they try to cheaply pawn it off to others. As celebrities start reporting the robberies and releasing surveillance footage, the circle tightens around them as eventually their Facebook posts and bragging to people at school offers more than enough ammo for the police to arrest them and search their homes. Now, A24 acquired this movie. It was shot in 2012, and then on January 16th, 2013, it was announced that A24 had acquired the distribution rights to the movie and would get its premiere at Cannes. It screened during the Uncertain Regard portion of the festival on May 26th and eventually came out to theaters in June of 2013. So, I think a good jumping off point to discuss the movie is when it came out, the Bling Ring was criticized for being vapid and more interested in name dropping and contributing to celebrity worship. So I want to know, do you think the film has any kind of deeper meaning, or is it more interested in showing off rich people partying and acting bratty, or does it have something of value to say? So, Rachel, we'll start with you. What are your sort of thoughts on that take?
I completely agree with that criticism. I do think the movie is incredibly shallow. I don't think the subject matter of the movie is shallow. I think that it is a very worthwhile discussion to have, especially like when you're talking about the context of 2008, 2009. I kind of like a bit different for me is usually I complain when movies are overly stylized, i.e. Spring Breakers, which is the last one that we talked about. But I actually, for this one, would have rathered more style because I feel like there's substance in there, but it needs a bit of style. It needs something more to bring out the substance. And I don't really feel like Coppola did that well. Because there is like a really interesting theme in there. There is really interesting subtext and concepts that, you know, can be explored through the different characters and whatnot. And they kind of do it, but again, very superficial, very shallow, in my opinion.
That's interesting. What about you, Naomi? How do you sort of feel? Is this more style over substance?
I actually think that I like the shallowness because it is what it is. The original case is, you know, the way it was. So for me, like, there's no need to add like judgment or cast certain ideas upon this story. Like, for me, yeah, it's style definitely dominating the whole movie, but I think that signifies the importance of the film. Like, this happened, deal with that kind of attitude, and I actually like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I feel a little bit closer to you, Naomi, than I do to you, Rachel. You're right in the sense of like these acts of crime are just sort of just thrown on screen, obviously done in a very stylized way to a terrific soundtrack of the era of like pop and hip hop music. But there's also a certain degree of removedness from the camera. I often found that every time that they are in the homes of the celebrities or committing whatever crimes they were doing, the camera felt like it was like a surveillance camera. It would kind of sit there idly. It would pan side to side. It would watch them kind of like a CCTV camera would, but would never really get directly involved with them. Sometimes if you want like to show that the camera is a part of the action, it will sort of chase people around. They'll chase the characters around. They'll show them, you know, digging into boxes of jewelry and cash boxes and things like that. But it never really does that. It kind of sits back a little bit away from the action at times. Especially so the famous shot of when it shows them robbing Audrina Patris's house from a distance, and it's a single long take, which I definitely want to talk a bit more about later. But I guess my sort of follow up to you, Rachel, is because you felt it was a little too much style, does that mean that the film just really didn't work for you as a whole?
No, I mean, sorry, I meant to say I wish there was more style. Like,
oh,
yeah, I felt like
okay.
it was too bland. Like that's what I meant. Like, I felt like the movie was too bland. Which is why I was saying, like, typically I always say, oh, this movie was over stylized, and it kind of took me out of it. But this is one of the few times that I watched a movie and I went, man, I wish that there was a bit more. Like, I wish that you could take the aesthetic and the style of Spring Breakers and put this storyline in, because I feel like then you would have a really interesting, it would just make the story more interesting, because I felt like the way Coppola did it, it was very toned down in a sense. But I agree with you, Naomi, in the sense that, like, it is implicit. Like, it's about shallow people and superficial people. So maybe that was kind of the point Sofia Coppola was trying to make, of just saying, like, yeah, we did a very superficial, very shallow look, because that's kind of the nature of what is going on. But I just kind of wish that they had done more. Like, again, I really feel like that was my whole, everything I thought about when I was watching the movie was like, if they had done all that excess and extraness of Spring Breakers and put it into here, I feel like you would have a really bomb-ass movie.
Okay.
Yeah, that works. Yeah.
It'd be interesting, like, if you have all the girl, like, I mean, not saying, like, you need everybody in a bikini, like a neon bikini with, like, blue light. That's not what I'm saying. Just, like, I like, obviously, those girls are supposed to be, and, is it Mark? Yeah, Mark. They're supposed to be kind of, like, just suburban kids, who are just, like, rich suburban kids, not just random suburban kids. But it just felt very, I don't know, like, lackadaisical, which, again, might be the whole point, because I don't think that the actual Bling Ring, like the people that were actually, the kids that were actually doing it, I don't think that they thought it was a big deal. You know, like, I think they just kind of thought, oh, yeah, this is just something we do. Like, this is basically how we go shopping, is I hang out in Paris Hilton's nightclub room, because that's just the thing that I do on a Saturday night, you know? So maybe that was why, like, they just wanted the more pedestrian attitude towards it, because that's what the real life story was it, they were very, very relaxed about everything.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, I can see where you're coming from. I wonder if that's just sort of not in the wheelhouse of Sofia Coppola, because you look at, I haven't seen all of her movies, but I've seen a good chunk of them, and she's not usually an overly flashy director.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So she, and often her subjects are very flawed people, and I think she does her best to just sort of be like, hey, here are the flaws, you kind of make up your mind of how you want to see them, but I'm not really going to cast any judgment. And there can be a bit of coldness to that, where you at least want the director's vision to have some sort of judgment, positively or negatively. And this, she kind of really doesn't have any of that going for it. I would say the only person in this whole film that is looked upon negatively, or at least maybe in my opinion, my views of her, was the Leslie Mann character, where all the young girls didn't really seem to respect her. That was my only real judgment I was seeing. Yeah,
that's true. No, that is true. I think, like, well, because she was, like, such a weird ass mom. Like, she was using the seat to homeschool her kids and being like, think about Angelina Jolie. Like, yeah. That is true, though. I do think Coppola, I'm not the biggest fan of Sofia Coppola, to be honest. I'm not. Like, I think she, obviously Lost in Translation is a beautiful classic movie, but most of her films, I've never really been too drawn towards them, to be honest. Even, like, what was the new one that she did?
On the Rocks?
Yeah, that one. I was kind of, like, I like Rashida Jones, I like Bill Murray, and I was like, oh, yeah. And Damon Wayans, like, I like him too. He's great.
It wasn't
from Marlon. Sorry, Marlon Wayans was the one in it.
Yeah. So I guess sort of speaking of that family, not the Wayne's family, the Leslie Mann family, I want to talk about Emma Watson. She's kind of coming off the heels of the Harry Potter franchise and sort of trying to separate herself. And almost in the sense of similar to the women in Spring Breakers, it was the sort of family-friendly young teen girls gone bad sort of thing, and I sort of feel that this is Emma Watson's version of her going bad. What did you think of her performance? I'll start with you, Naomi.
Actually, like, I listened to that episode before watching this movie, so, like, while I was watching this movie, I was like, yo, Emma Watson's the girls from Spring Breaker, like, what the fuck? Like, for me, I'm definitely the Harry Potter generation. I grew up reading it. I was expecting a letter from Hogwarts until, J.K. Rowling started saying transphobic shit. So to see Emma Watson, Hermione, she's still, Hermione to me. So, like, with tramp stamp tattoo on her lower back, and, doing whatever drugs, I was like, oh my gosh, she's gone bad, but she looks good, and she's acting perfectly with that vain, shallow LA Calabasas vibe. Like, I'm sexually confused right now. Like, it was that good. I mean, I know that I'm already bisexual, but I was just like, I don't like people who do drugs, but I'm like, you know what? You will make you'll be my only exception. Like, girl, it was that kind of confusion.
So
TMI, I'm so sorry.
It wasn't necessarily like a confusion about sex. It was more about whether, because she does drugs, and you were like,
yeah,
why
am I attracted to this? But yeah, she definitely stepped out. Yeah, sorry.
No. I really like Emma Watson. She's like, to me, the standout of this movie. She's definitely the strongest actor of all of them. And I love that this was her big thing outside of after Harry Potter, because the thing that I really respect Emma Watson for was like, she never tried to go, I mean, no disrespect to Selena Gomez and what's that other girl's name? Vanessa Hudgens and them, like, no disrespect to them, but it's like, I respect the fact that Emma Watson didn't just do like a complete 180, and like, yes, she's doing drugs in it, but like, I think we never see her do any cocaine. I think it's just weed that we want not to say that. Well, no, it's legal in Canada.
She was doing heroin or meth.
Was she?
Yeah, there was a pipe involved.
I thought that pipe was.
I know my.
I thought that was marijuana. But there was also like a scene where she's like trying on different outfits with Mark, and then it's like she's in a bra, but like she very kind of strategically, you can see her like turn her back to the camera. So it's like she wanted to bear that Harry Potter thing, but she wasn't willing to like go completely Spring Breakers and like go the other way. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I like that about her. Like, I like that she wasn't trying to shock people. She was just trying to say like, I'm more than just a wizard. I didn't watch Harry Potter, nor did I read it, so I don't really know who she was, but I assume she was a wizard. That's what I assume. I know.
How dare you?
I agree with
you. Chose violence this morning.
I know.
Okay.
I know. I'm sorry. It's just, it never really stuck with me. I don't know. I tried reading the first one when I was a kid, and then I never got into it. And then, yeah, but that's a whole other discussion. But anyways, Dakota, what did you think about Emma Watson?
It's interesting because I definitely agree with what you're saying about her portrayal, and I almost wonder if it's two things in my mind where I'm not too sure. Maybe it's a combination of both. One, I think there was still, I don't want to call it a modesty, but maybe a decision on her part to maybe limit how much of a bad girl image she was willing to portray, because there you see her smoking a pipe at one point. We're clearly not too sure exactly what it was, but we're not seeing her doing rails of cocaine like the rest of the cast is. So she clearly doesn't want to be shown doing that. She's not in she drinks a bit, but like, other than, some champagne and stuff like that, we're not seeing her, chugging beer or whatever like that. And then on as far as the sexuality side, it's still fairly reserved. In general, I feel like most of the girls still are fairly reserved. And I think that sort of leads to the fact that we have a female filmmaker making it and not wanting it to be sort of quote unquote for the male gaze, because this is still supposed to be teenage girls, that they're not wanting to sexualize them as much as, like, say, on the flip side, Spring Breakers. I know we're kind of comparing it a lot. There is some overlap in theme as far as good girls gone bad sort of thing, and the way they are shot, the Selena Gomez and Vanessa Hudgens and the rest of them is shot very much for a male gazy perspective, and even the rest of the young women on the Spring Break who are, shaking their butts in the camera sort of thing. And on the flip side of this is every time they're getting changed, you can clearly see that they're in their bra and underwear, but you're not really getting like a full close-up butt shot, or like just a shot of their midriff and up, showing them in their bra with like cleavage and things like that. So I wonder if that's a conscious Emma Watson thing, or if it's a Sofia Coppola thing, or if it's a combination of the two. But it definitely, at times, I felt like some of the characters were neutered a bit as far as us believing that they truly are quote unquote bad people at times. So I don't know. I'm a little conflicted on that feeling.
Naomi, what do you think?
I think it's a combination of both, but I get what you mean. Like, but it's hard to say. What about you, Rachel? Like, I still need to like wrap my mind around it, head around it.
I think Dakota's right. Like, I think that, having a female behind camera for this one makes sense. But in a sense too, it's like there was no place for nudity. There was no place for those kinds of shots, because that has nothing to do with the movie, And when Dakota,
we're supposed to believe that they're high school students as well.
Yeah, and like
whereas Spring Breakers, they were college students.
Yeah, I mean, high school students can be interesting as well. Like, they can be salacious and whatnot, but I think an interesting point that you said, though, is like, Spring Breakers was a good girls gone bad kind of thing. And I don't necessarily think that Bling Ring is good girls gone bad. It's like bored people just doing, like, bored rich kids doing things that because they didn't get caught. And it's like a feeling like, you know, it's kind of, it's what I said closer to the beginning. It's just like, there are really interesting themes in this movie. Like, there's a lot that you can talk about, the fact that these rich white kids are, they're not all white. There was one Korean girl. But it's like, sorry, I was just so used to saying rich white kids.
I know.
My bad.
I was so happy to realize that Rachel was a Korean. I was just like, yes, Asian rich girl. Yes.
Yeah.
I was rooting so hard for her.
It's true. I actually was a little bit too. I was like, do it for us. Do it for the ones who never went off. We do it for the girls that like we just were really good and just studied a lot. Like, whatever. But no, like, I feel like those girls were just like, they were bored, and they were and there's a lot to be like, there's a lot of commentary there about, you know, these kids who don't have a leash, like they don't have any parental guidance or supervision whatsoever. The reason that they're so relaxed about breaking into people's homes is because they genuinely don't feel like they have any consequences to be suffered from it, you know, like, and that has a lot to do with their upbringing, because when you're born into a certain situation and you've never really been in trouble, you've never heard no, like, you've never had any real challenge in front of you, something like this, like, you just keep pushing. It's like, you know, you what is it? You give an inch, you take an inch, you go a mile or something like that. Yeah. It's like that, but like self-inflicted. Like, they just kept going. So it's, I know we bring up Spring Breakers a lot in this, but it is a really interesting, like, putting the two of them back to back, because it's similar, but absolutely different at the same time. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that. But what Naomi, how about you? Like, what do you think about that concept of, like, you know, these girls and the boy who are just kind of, but he's interesting too. Like, actually, like, that Mark character is a really interesting character, because he's not necessarily into it because he's a bored. Like, he wanted to fit in, you know?
Yeah. And he keeps it. Isn't he the only one basically said, like, I think I'm ugly,
Yeah,
like, I wanted to be something. Like, other people do it just like, well, you know, like Nikki was like, oh, you know, like, I'm making this spiritual thing, like, I'm gonna be better, blah blah blah. And Rebecca's just like, what did even Rebecca say? I forgot.
Rebecca didn't really say anything about it, but Mark implied that it was because she wanted to be a part of that group, and so if she looked the part, she could be a part.
Yeah, but so, like, the girls never kind of said directly, like, maybe gave us a hint of, like, what could have led to you know, them being them. But for me, like, Mark was like, yeah, no, like, I don't feel pretty, and he seemed honest, and like, he seemed to be aware of, like, the issues that he's having, and I like that contrast of it.
Did you guys read about the real life guy behind? I think his name was Nick Purgus, I think his name was.
Drop us some hot facts there, Rachel.
So he, that Nick guy, he was, when he was being, what do you call it, interrogated by the police came out and were like, he admitted to crimes that we had no idea about. Like, he just kept running his mouth off about stuff. And I'm like, it's not even, like, in the movie, he's portrayed as being quite innocent and somebody who was, like, really insecure.
Yeah.
But I'm like, in real life, I think he was just a bit of an idiot. Like, he just had no clue about anything. Because I think he just thought, oh, I'm just going to tell, like, they already know. Like, they must be on to me, so they must know everything. So I'm just going to go on. But that also goes to show, like, the youth that they had at the time. Like, they were very young when this happened. So he probably had no clue about the idea of, you know, don't talk, like, don't give them information that they're not asking for. You know, that's something that you learn later on when you're being interrogated by the police as an adult, you know. I don't know if you guys have learned that lesson, but I sure have.
For sure.
I almost wonder, and maybe this is me going full scale left wing, the concept of the police are usually only there to protect the interests of the rich. He's grown up in a lifestyle of, if you talk to the police, they're there to help you.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're not come from that ruling class, don't say more than you need to, because otherwise it could be used against you for stuff that may not even be true and could be used to actually hurt you and is detrimental. And so I think that is probably his whole concept of, well, if I just say everything, like, what's going to happen? They're probably going to thank me for telling them the truth.
That's a really good point. I mean, especially when you look at it in the context of today of, the police being kind of dodgy characters these days and not being the authority that we typically were raised to like look at them as, so that's a really, really good point though. And kind of goes to the whole idea of they're kids, they're rich kids and they don't know any better, quite frankly. Not to excuse their behavior. I mean, but
no,
not at all.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
In the film, like when she gets caught, like she's like, yo, like, can we make a deal? Like she was like on top of it.
Asian. She knew.
Yeah.
She knew. She knew what was up. All right.
As the only white person in this conversation, I feel comfortable with agreeing or disagreeing with that.
It's like, she's Asian. She knew. She knew. You don't think she looked up what her rights were? You don't think she did that ahead of time? She knew. She knew.
But I love that scene so much. Good for you, Rebecca.
It does show though, like her arrogance as well, right? Like thinking, like I mean, I joke saying that she's Asian, but like I think the real person was Rachel Lee, and I think that she probably did have some idea of what she was up against, but at the same time, her youth just like kind of betrays all of that and being a bit idealistic, like watching one too many episodes of Law and Order, or like one, too many, you know what I mean? Like that kind of a thing. Like you think that what you've seen on TV that's what reality is. So she knows not to say what you're not supposed to say. Right. And she knows that you can get a deal, but she has no idea like how to do it or just how deep she is into it. Like she doesn't seem to have very good awareness of her current situation. And again, that goes back to the privilege that she grew up in. Like she's this kid that grew up in the suburbs and is wealthy and, never was able to get out of a situation never couldn't get out of a bad situation because she probably never really had any.
I wonder if because, they meet at this high school that's supposed to be sort of a high school for delinquents. Mark went there because he was skipping too many classes, so he was kicked out of his school. She admits that she had gotten into some trouble. So I wonder if she has had some run-ins with the police before, maybe never on this scale, because I think she said she had drugs or something like that. So maybe she had an issue where she was caught with like a couple ounces of weed or something like that, or some joints or maybe some cocaine.
Rachel Lee, like the actual girl, what she had stolen from Sephora before that.
Oh, okay. So she kind of basically knew exactly what the deal was.
Yeah, you go from stealing from, a mascara from Sephora to breaking into Paris Hilton's home. It's very, like, that is a very linear thing that you do.
Natural progression.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course.
But actually, I mean, they say, like, I remember working at a pharmacy when I was younger, and they actually said the most common theft, amongst, like, stores like a pharmacy or I guess a Sephora, it is cosmetics. Like it is teenage girls stealing cosmetics because they're small and typically kind of expensive. Like not obviously that group can afford it, but like not everybody can. And like I remember you could walk around the pharmacy and you can check this to this day. I'm sure it still happens. But if you look to like the back, like the last packet on a rack or something, you'll see like there's always sometimes like an empty one, like somebody pulled out an eyeliner or somebody pulled out a lipstick or something like that. Yeah, it happens all the time. Yeah.
Damn.
And teenage girls are funny because I think like boys always get the rap for being like delinquent and like doing really bad things. But preteen girls, teenage girls, they know what to do. They know to steal. They know where to go. And like, and the fact that they don't tend to get focused on very much. Like if a bunch of girls came in, or like even a couple girls came into a pharmacy, like I don't think many people would look to them and be like, oh, like keep an eye on those ones.
Actually, some of my junior high classmates, like, they stole things from, like, stores, and they're like, yeah, I stole this. And I was just like, okay, great.
That's exactly like in the movie
yeah.
though, like the way that they talk about like, oh yeah, I went to like Rachel Bilson's house, or like we were just at like Orlando
Paris
Bloom's, like, you know.
nightclub has
Yeah, and
that.
they say it so casually, because I think above all else, like when we talk about wealth and all that, that is one aspect to it, but I think that the fact that they were so young and they just have no clue about the magnitude of what they're actually doing, you know, and how much they're about to fuck up their futures.
I kind of want to talk about what this era represents, because it really does sort of feel like it's the end of the era of excess, because it happened right before the 2008 economic crash, and so we're kind of living in a world where I mentioned off the top of the sort of different reality TV shows that were really popular, and you know, the phrase "famous for being famous" was often used to describe people like Paris Hilton and Kim Kardashian and stuff like that, but it also was popular on TV, and I know I'm guilty of it. When I was young, I really enjoyed watching TV shows like Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous and Cribs and things like that. Just this concept of seeing what rich people live like, and what that was like, and how fascinating it was to see how they have like 20 bathrooms in their house and like a closet that's bigger than my entire apartment, sort of thing, and all this different stuff. And so it was just really interesting sort of seeing it. I feel like the crux of the film is this America's obsession with celebrity and infamy and praising people for being rich for the sake of it. And I found that really interesting. So I'm curious to hear how that sort of played out for the two of you.
So I was actually a high school student, like, in 2008. So like when this movie was set in, and like I grew up reading Teen Vogue and, you know, celebrity gossip magazines that talked about Hollywood celebs back in Japan. I was obsessed with Paris Hilton. I was always talking about it. So I was like, this movie reminded me so much of that time period, and with the music, I was like, oh my god, I feel like I'm back in high school. And I actually do love the concept of like celebrity and fame, because it's like the new level of capitalism, you know, like capitalism was about commodifying, and that evolved into commodifying like promises, that, you know, like this paper is gonna hold the same value as $20 in like however many days ahead of the future. Like it will still hold the same value, but now it's like commodifying this image of Paris Hilton or like celebrity, and it's not even the celebrity itself, it's just what we associate, what we think of them, right? Like, so I do think that's just like fascinating, even though it's shallow, but like I do enjoy it thoroughly. So I was just like, yeah, no, this is what we are at the level of like humanity, like progressing. And it's ironic, but at the same time, it is what it is. So I enjoyed it, but but after watching this movie, I actually started listening to Paris Hilton's music. So I feel like this movie kind of unleashed some of the demon that I had in 2008. So I blame Sofia Coppola for that.
Yeah, you want to listen to some Stars Is Born or whatever? Stars Are Blind? Stars Are Blind? That's the name of the song, right?
Yeah. Stars Are Blind. Yeah, I was listening. Yeah, that's the first song that I listened to when I got on my Spotify after watching this movie.
I still can't believe she has a music career like that. It's baffling to me.
Watch the music videos. It's hilarious.
For me, it was, I'm a little older, so I was in university when 0809 rolled around, and I was into it. Like I was definitely like, same with Dakota. Like I watched MTV Cribs. Was it Lifestyles of the Rich and the Famous? Is that what you said, Dakota? Yeah, with the guy's voice.
It was
and
like the British
saying,
narrator.
Yeah, him. It was great. That was a great show. It was excellent. And there is a fascination. I can understand it. And I fully bought into it. I mean, I don't know anybody who hasn't, to be honest. And I actually think people are lying when they say they haven't. Because it's interesting. Like, even if, you're like us and you're really into movies, like, you can still be interested in the lives of the people that you watch readily on screen, right? Like, I remember like when Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston, like that's gossip and that's excellent entertainment for the rest of us, even though it's their lives. But I mean, 100%, I was definitely interested in the gossip. I will say Paris Hilton The Hills, those guys, I never actually really got into that. Like, obviously I knew who they were because it was one of those things that, you know, how could you not know who they were at that time? Like, you knew what The Hills were, even if you'd never seen an episode of The Hills. You knew what it was. Like, you knew it was this show. And even today, like, I hate the fact that I know who the Kardashians are. Like, it bothers me to no end that I know so much about them and I don't want to know anything about them, but it is what it is. And so while maybe I didn't dip too much into that celebrity, like that type of celebrity, there were other, like, I definitely have gone down many a gossip holes. That sounds kind of gross, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, ew.
Didn't mean it like that.
I'm sure.
And one thing I found interesting, though, is reading a Vulture interview that Paris Hilton gave. Because I actually was wondering, I was like, why the hell would Paris Hilton allow people to video inside her house after she was broken into? Like, you're literally showing everybody what like, I'm sure I have to assume her security system is much better than it used to be. And when I say better, I mean, I hope that she has a security system versus leaving a key under the fucking door. Like, I'm sorry, like that. That is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Like, I don't understand how they're so like, oh, it's fine, like, just leave it. But
no, the monkey was supposed to be one of the security alarms, I'm sure.
So stupid. Like, it's just dumb. Like, they're idiots. But the thing, I just thought it was interesting. So I was like kind of trying to find, like, why did Paris Hilton allow this? And then I found this Vulture interview, and she was saying how she was watching the movie and it made her really emotional. Like, she was crying at some points because she obviously knew it had happened, but, you know, watching them, like, it felt like such a violation of her privacy and blah, blah, blah. And then the interview goes into being like, but there is one bright spot. Like, you get to see her home, and her home for Paris. There is one bright spot for Paris Hilton. She got to see her home on the big screen. And she was like, oh my God, this is my dream home. I'm just doing her voice. I don't actually think this is what she sounded like. It was a print interview. But she's like, oh my God.
I need a better impression, Rachel.
I can't. Yeah. I don't know why. My voice is very low at the moment. I'm not sure what's going on.
Try harder.
But she's like, oh my God. Like, like a vocal fry. No, but she was like, oh my God, like, you know, seeing my dream home. Like, I spent so much time on this house, every little detail, and like to see it up in a movie, like it's a dream come true for her kind of thing. And I was like, that is such a, like, on one hand, she's trying to say like, oh, I was burgled and my home and my privacy and my safety was violated there. And that is a big deal. But then on the other hand, she's like, I'm so fucking excited that people get to see the inside of my house, even though I would be so embarrassed if my house was like cushions of my face and my walls were just my face, you know. But she was more like, I'm so happy people get to see this because I designed it exactly how I wanted it to look. And I was like, Paris, never change. You've never changed. Like, that clearly hasn't changed you. And I feel like sometimes they miss the point of what this movie was trying to say, which is like false idolatry, like as you said at the very beginning, Dakota. And I found that like interview fascinating, that she was just so game for showing her home in that. I'm like, you didn't learn a lesson at all, did you, Paris?
For me, that's absolutely wild that she considers that how the view of her house is. Where to me, like, reading afterwards that it was actually shot in her house, I'm like, okay, but they didn't really show a lot. Like, you see her lobby, which is usually the lights are off, so you don't see anything in the lobby other than the cushions of her face. And then you just see her closets, where it's just so overflowing with crap. I guess to put it more properly, with clothes, with shoes, with jewelry, with things like that. Nothing really is super organized, other than like the wall of shoes, which seem to be color coded.
Yes, it was color coded.
It's not like when you visit someone's house and like you see how nicely laid out their living room is and the art pieces that they have on the wall. And you go in the bedroom and you're like, okay, yes, I understand this person's aesthetic and, you know, what they're trying to say with where they feel most comfortable. It just was like, and here's all of this stuff. There wasn't really anything that made me like. It just sort of looked like a set to me that was just overfilled way too much. And so, I if they actually like, you know, did a shot where they like showed them going through room by room and showing each one of Paris's bedrooms and bathrooms and the living room and, you know, the kitchen and all that sort of stuff. I would have probably found that more interesting to be like, oh, wow, this is actually her house. We're seeing a glimpse of who she really is, as opposed to just be like, look at her overstuffed closets.
I mean, that goes to the heart of the movie, though, right? And I also think that might be a runoff of your MTV cribs of just wanting to see everything inside a celebrity's house.
Yeah.
Like, what's in their fridge? I don't know. I'd like to see that.
Right? Yeah.
Like,
look at all of these boxed waters.
That was always like the highlight of the MTV cribs was check out my fridge.
And they're all like, I don't shop. I don't know what's in here.
I mean, half the time that wasn't even their house. Like, let's be real. I remember Destiny's Child one, and they were trying to pull off that the three of them actually lived together. I'm like, you don't live together. That's beside the point.
Oh,
sorry.
wow.
That is like basically the epitome of all style, zero substance.
Absolutely.
Oh
And
my
it
God.
genuinely wasn't there. Like, you find out now, years later, that it wasn't their houses. Like, they would rent houses and stage them for the show specifically, because I think a lot of them too were smart enough to realize, like, don't show the entire layout of your house on national television.
Yeah.
Like, that's stupid to do.
Mhm.
And I mean, clearly Paris Hilton has no problems with that. She didn't show the whole layout of her house, to be fair, but she did show how, like, her closet was like never ending of you just open one panel and then you open another panel, just keeps going.
Yeah. All the Louboutins. Ooh.
Yeah, that was a big one. But I think that came from that Vanity Fair article, isn't it? Like the name of it was, I don't know, you said at the
Yes,
beginning,
yeah.
Dakota. I can't remember the beginning of it. It was like something they wear Louboutins or something like that.
I have it right here. The suspects were Louboutins.
Yeah. So I think like that was supposed to be their big thing. And they kept like
So
throwing out like name brands and stuff like that of what they all
Mhm.
had. And I actually like that touch because I thought it was like, it just showed just how shallow and superficial. Like they know a lot about this kind of crap. I shouldn't call it crap.
yeah.
It's like
well,
a
they're
multi-billion
clearly
dollar
around
industry.
it because they're clearly around it because their families are rich, so they have some access to this. But then they're also going out to the different nightclubs. And I feel like if you were a casual watcher of something like TMZ back in the day, I definitely remember them like, or like any sort of fashion police show after a award show where they would, you know, critique the different brands that they were wearing. So it was all like in the general lexicon. I remember same with like Sex and the City, Jimmy Choo's and Louboutins were like the big thing that like came out of that show because of it.
Were you a big Sex and the City fan, Dakota?
I wouldn't say I was a big fan. I did like it. I watched most of it back in the day.
Something I didn't
yeah,
even know that you and I could be talking about. We could definitely be talking about Carrie and Big and like
Yeah.
Aiden and like, oh my God. Just opened up
It's
a
been a
whole
while,
new
but-
world
but
for
yes,
us.
I did watch the TV show. I haven't seen the movies, but I did watch
Okay,
the show.
y'all have to watch the movie and then do like 5 episodes on on the series. Please, I need it.
First movie is actually pretty good, I have to say. For like, I
I
think the first
know.
movie's pretty good. The second movie's
it was cute.
second movie's shit, but the first movie's like pretty spot on. Especially if you like the series, I think the first movie's really good. But I mean, like that Sex and the City is a good example too of just like a show that was very superficial, but that one it did go into like a lot of. I mean, I know today looking back, people are finding a lot of fault with it, but when you look at it in the context of the 90s, like it was a very progressive show for the time. And this idea of these women just talking about sex, and it's like, but there was a lot of frivolity involved with it too, which Bling Ring obviously is a product of that as well. Like these girls who probably grew up, like Paris Hilton and them, grew up watching Sex and the City, thinking this is kind of how their lives are supposed to be, and like they stalk their, you know. So it's interesting though, like you say, these girls would have grown up with it, but it's also in the common, like the brands became really commonly known to just about everybody. And like, and I would agree with that because I didn't grow up rich, but like I definitely knew those brands, and like I would covet a lot of the stuff that, like especially handbags, like I'd covet a lot of them, but can't afford them. I could have just broken into Paris Hilton's house apparently, but
Exactly.
it was for another Rachel to do, not for me. It's fine. Absolutely fine.
Now, I feel like we've gotten so wildly off topic, but I had a fun time
Whoops.
talking about this movie. I feel like it's time we get into our fun segments at the end and sort of have a little fun with this movie a little bit. And so the first one is naming a double bill pairing for this movie. the thing is, the only rule is that it can't be another A24 film. So Naomi, as our guest, what would be a perfect double pairing for the Bling ring and why?
This is going to be so stupid and shallow, but Ocean's 8.
Oh, okay.
Because it involves fashion, or as kids like to say, fashion, and, girls getting together to do some, girls and a boy, but, he's gay. He can be, he can be in the feminine world. Girls getting together and doing things. And I actually wanted to ask this question, like, would you consider this movie a heist movie? And I feel like, with Ocean's 8, like, we can talk about or think about, what constitutes a heist movie and that kind of thing. So Ocean's 8's my pick. But I also have Triple Frontier as another suggestion because, again, it's a heist movie and it's like dumb people doing dumb things. And also Oscar Isaac.
I was going to say, isn't Oscar Isaac in that?
Mm-hmm.
Damn it! Okay, I'm getting too predictable. I'm going to shut up.
I do quite like your pick of Ocean's 8. I think that's an interesting one. I'm not going to comment on it just yet. So, Rachel, I want to hear what your pick is.
Was your pick Ocean's 8? I feel like it might have been. Or an Ocean's movie. Okay, anyways, I'll continue.
I'm not revealing it yet.
I have a bit of a trend of picking like 90s movies, and I'm going to continue with that because that's my favorite decade of movies, quite frankly. And I'm going with Set It Off, which is a bank heist movie. It's Jada Pinkett Smith. I think at the time she was just Jada Pinkett, though. And Queen Latifah, Vivica A. Fox, and Kimberly Elise. And it is 4 women who decide to rob a bank, all for different reasons. But, they're, I don't want to say good reasons, because there aren't good reasons to rob a bank. But reasons that are not just, I just wanted a nice coat. It was, I need to put food on the table for my family. I want to secure a good future for my children. That kind of a thing. It's an excellent movie for anybody who hasn't seen it yet. And I know these days a lot of studios are always like, oh, we need like female-led movies, and they just make a real mess of it because they're so focused on just ticking like a little checkbox here. But Set It Off is one that really does it so perfectly well. And the soundtrack is amazing. This is when En Vogue's Let It Go. That was the main theme for Set It Off. So it's a fantastic movie. If you guys haven't seen it yet.
Interesting. So that's 2 heist movies in a row. Now, Rachel, what's something that you always say about me?
Oh, God, you went with a period movie.
No, that I'm a man of the people.
Okay.
So, my pick for a double billing is a 1955 French film called Rififi, directed by American Jules Dassin. So I know Rachel is stifling her laughter here, but I am so happy that I finally had a reason to plug this movie because it's one of my favorites of all time. But basically, it's a classic heist film that has some similarities. Midway through the Bling ring, there's this long, unbroken take of Audrina Patris's house being robbed. It features no dialogue or music, just showing the invasive nature of the crime. Rififi's main set piece is a robbery of a jewelry store, connection there, where it is protected by an alarm that is set off by noise. So to bypass the system, the crew must work in total silence. They don't talk to each other. They work as silently as possible, with every slight rustle causing mini panic attacks. To aid in the tension, there is no score at all, highlighting the need to be as quiet as possible. Other sort of similarities include the downfall for both crews when they start bringing in more people and bragging about their scores. The more people know, the likelier news will spread to the police. Both crews also spend their free time partying in nightclubs where they meet people who can't be trusted. So, Rachel, what snide comment do you have for me about this pick?
Like I said, a man of the people. You're just a common folk. You're one who's like, people go, hey, my favorite movie is... I can't even think of
1955 French black and white film.
Yeah, and you're just like, check out this aspect ratio, bro. Like, you're gonna love this shit. It is actually a really, really great pick, and I know that you really love Rififi as well, and it's an excellent movie. I haven't seen it in a really, really long time. I think it was one of the first. When I say a foreign movie, I mean like a non-English, non-Cantonese movie. I think that was probably one of my first foreign films for me. That I ever saw, and it truly is really, really great, and it's really engaging considering one, how old it is, two, like the lack of score. I think that that's really interesting because typically the score is what builds the world. Like in Bling Ring, the score is everything, right? Like the score / soundtrack is what builds the 0809 setting. And like typically in any heist movie, you always have a score that like speeds up and builds the anxiety of like, oh shit, they're going to get caught any second. But Rififi doesn't do that. It just is a very classically made and very well told movie. So yes, man of the people, the pleb himself, Dakota Arsenault, just choosing these really, it's not that obscure though, is it, Rififi? It is. No, it is. It's relatively obscure. I think if you like are really, really into common folk movies, then obviously you'll know what it is. But otherwise, yeah, the general audience basically is what we're talking about here. Naomi, have you seen Rififi?
Nope. So I actually had to Google it, and now I'm rolling my eyes so hard.
Check out that aspect ratio, bro. Like it's tight. It's real good.
Stop it.
Rachel, I swear to God.
It is a great movie though. Naomi, like if you can find it, like go and, well, I don't even know where to find it these days, but like, is it on Criterion? Is it on Criterion?
Criterion
it must
channel.
be. Probably,
it is, yes.
Yeah. Which is where Dakota gets most of his movies, is the Criterion channel.
Of course.
Yes, I do own the Criterion edition of this
Oh
film.
my, good for you.
It's a great movie,
Thank
though.
you.
It is a very,
Thank you.
very good movie. And I actually think it's pretty apt for Bling Ring. And I do think, Naomi, too, your choice of Ocean's 8, like, I thought about that one, too. Like, it makes sense. Like, it is this, like, I think it's not a mistake all three of us chose heist movies. Because that is the biggest kind of through line of Bling Ring, is that it's heisty, but it's a different type, like, to Coppola's credit, it's a different type of heist movie. Like, it doesn't really go into the whole... I guess there is no sneak attack for this because they literally just walk into these houses. Like they don't
literally.
Yeah, they don't have to do very much to get into them, which is a very different type of.
There's no planning.
Like,
They just Google being like, "Where's Paris Hilton tonight?" Oh, she's at a club in Vegas.
Yeah,
and like her address happened to be on the internet. You know, like no planning required. It's just sheer luck. Okay,
it's not even like the internet was like that new at the time either. Like 0809, I don't think there's an excuse anymore. Like in the 90s, I can give them an excuse for being like they had no idea that you could easily access this information. But by 2008, you should know that the internet was quite powerful. But now in Rififi, they did not have the internet. Like I just want to make that clear that was not a thing yet. Not a thing yet.
Mm-hmm. I think the one thing that's interesting is we did all choose heist films, and I wonder if that has something to do with the fact that, for me, I almost think that the heist sequences in the Bling Ring were probably the most interesting, both cinematically of what Sofia Coppola was doing, and just in general interest-wise of what was most interesting and fascinating for us to watch, because a lot of the drama behind the scenes sort of stuff really did next to nothing for me at times, but the heist stuff was where I was most engaged. Would the two of you sort of agree with that statement? Maybe that's why we all picked heist movies?
Naomi?
Probably, yeah. And like Mark was the only one who was anxious and who was like, like, let's go, like we need to go. And like I was with Mark the whole time. I mean, I'm like naturally anxious, so like him being extremely anxious in a situation that I was already anxious, I was like, oh my god, like that. Yeah, so the whole heist, the scenes, were the the main focus. And the mom, the affirmation mom, so I was gonna say this is either spiritual film or heist film.
I agree, Dakota.
I'm kidding about the spiritual part.
No, but I agree though. Like I think that the movie is like it's kind of like I said top, like it lacks in style. Like, and I wish there was more style because I think that you could have made the drama more interesting. I think the heist stuff, you're right. Like that one long shot scene, no dialogue, nothing. It's like that is a remarkable scene, which according to IMDb, they almost Coppola wanted to cut it. Like she didn't want that scene. Yeah.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the cinematographer was the one who convinced her to leave it in, and it ends up being like the best shot of the whole movie.
The best.
Yeah,
so
and
beautiful.
it's amazing. Like it's a glass house, like you could just see them kind of scampering around, and it's really interesting.
Yeah, going.
Yeah, but like other than that, and it just feels like a wasted opportunity for me. And like in general, I did like the movie. Like I don't think it was a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination, but I just feel like they could have been working on both angles, like the heist side and the drama side. And yeah, you're probably right that's the thing that stuck out, the heist stuff, which is why we all went heisty rather than any theme, like a thematic kind of thing. We just went with, it's a heist movie, so we're going to go with heist movies.
Especially since we could have maybe gone in the direction of like a teen drama or, you know, Good Kids Gone Bad sort of thing. And
Clueless was one that kind of popped into my head a little bit, just in terms of talking about like superficiality and pop culture and that kind of a thing. Like I thought about it, but it doesn't really fit. Like it fits in that sense, but other than that, it doesn't. But I mean, that is a big through line of Bling Ring, is supposed to show like what Cher's lifestyle was as well, who also had a very cool closet.
Yep. Can we get that, please?
Yes, of course.
Everyone wanted that closet. And then you grow up and realize, yeah, it's just not very practical, is it? Because if it breaks, what do you do? It also just costs a lot of money. And most of us don't have that kind of money.
So then let's move on to the next portion of this, and the would you rather. So we each have to come up with a would you rather question that can either be based directly on the movie or just sort of tangentially related. Naomi, as our guest, let's start with you. What question do you have to post for Rachel and I?
Damn it! I wanted to go last because I only have like bad questions.
You want to do that? We can.
You know what? No. You know what? I don't want to embarrass myself further. Let me go first. Okay.
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 Trust me, don't worry. Rachel and I take this part the least serious out of all of them.
Okay, good to know. Comforting. Thank you. Okay, so my question is, would you rather be a personal stylist? Actually, no, scratch that. Would you rather have closet or items from closet of Paris Hilton or Lindsay Lohan from this film? Or like actually in general. Yeah, would you rather dress like Paris Hilton or Lindsay Lohan?
God.
Rachel?
You should have thrown Rachel Bilson. I would have taken Rachel Bilson's clothes in a second. Paris Hilton or Lindsay Lohan. Oh, then you don't get any underwear, do you? That sucks. Like,
nope.
God damn it.
You flashing the whole time.
Damn it.
Oh my God, Rachel. I cannot believe you went there.
I'll go with, I guess I'd probably maybe go with Paris? No, I'm going to go with Lindsay. I'm going to go with Lindsay because Paris is very tall, I think. So I don't think I would fit any of her clothing. But she's also very skinny. And I, again, wouldn't fit into her. But like, I guess Lindsay. I think I would probably go Lindsay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And also because I think Paris's clothing was very like, you don't need a bra to wear her clothes. And I don't think I would be very comfortable with that, quite frankly. So I think Lindsay's clothes are more like, yes, you can wear the top undergarment at minimum. It's fine. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What about you, Dakota?
Interesting. Well, you know what? I'm going to pretend like I'm my good buddy Mark and say Paris Hilton because her shoes.
I was actually
size 11. I actually had to Google it.
I was surprised her shoe. Like, I mean, it makes sense because she is quite tall. Like, she is very, very tall. Yeah. But it did shock me a little bit when it was like, oh, like I can fit in her shoes. I'm like, holy shit! Like Paris Hilton and big feet. Didn't know that.
Size 11. She's a drag queen.
That's crazy.
But that's women's size 11 though.
Oh yeah,
which is interesting.
Still though, women's size 11 is
not too
pretty big. I would say it's probably like a men's 9-ish, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, that is quite large. That wouldn't fit me because I do wear a size 12 men. So
that was a little flex there. Dakota's like, I wear size 12, so
yeah,
can't really.
Yeah. I got
it's like me and Shaq basically hanging out.
We're the exact same.
Yeah, Paris makes sense for, I think, guys, because she's just bigger, like she's taller, like so it kind of makes sense. What about you, Naomi?
Yeah.
Whose closet would you rather?
Yeah.
Paris, because I always wanted to wear that Juicy Couture velour, the thing. Yeah, I was obsessed with that when I was a teenager, so I need to.
Did Lindsay not do velour? I feel like everyone did velour at some point.
Yeah, but she was more like, like the trendsetter. I think she started the trend, so.
I thought J-Lo did.
And I
always associate velour with J-Lo.
Oh,
J-Lo and Puffy. That was their thing. That's why I got one, because I wanted to be J-Lo when I was younger.
Oh my god.
That was my big thing. I was like, now when I say I got a velour, I got like a knockoff one from Stitches. So it wasn't actually like a proper velour.
Still it counts.
Yeah. I still wear the pants as like just jogger bottoms.
Really?
Yeah, they're still hanging around when I have them, just like at home. If I need something to wear, I'll chuck them on. No big deal.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
What about you, Rachel? What is your
Okay, so in a grand tradition that I haven't exercised in a while, I'm going completely against the rules of Would You Rather because I really couldn't think of one. So instead, I'm asking you both an open-ended question of the celebrities today, whether you were, or actually not even of today, when you were younger, or of today, if you feel like doing it of today, whose house would you like to rob the most? Of celebrity, obviously, not like your neighbor. Like, whose house would you like to rob of a celebrity, and why?
Can I answer for Rachel? Oscar Isaac.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, his wife is so beautiful. I mean, so his house is so beautifully decorated. Ugh.
Super creepy.
Hey, yo, when Letter Room came out, they did interviews together, okay? So the background of the interview, because it was Zoom call, they changed every setting. Like, one time they did it in, like, separate houses. Separate rooms in their, like, one house, okay? I'm not being creepy. I just watched a lot of interviews that they're in.
That's
okay,
like modern day Bling Ring is I saw their house through a Zoom call.
Honestly, yeah.
Like through a Zoom interview, and now I know their house.
Yeah. I know which room is where, and like which direction. Yeah, I know everything. I know, I have the blueprint. Sorry, but Dakota, yeah. Who else?
Wow, okay. You know what? I really don't have an answer for that. Like, I really cannot care about any.
Or like an athlete. Is there some athlete's house you'd like to rob of, like, to grab their shit? Like paraphernalia. Not paraphernalia.
I have an answer. I would say probably Quentin Tarantino. Just to like.
Oh.
You could get all of the film prints, all like the can.
Yeah, and that's the thing. He probably has like the film reels of like every kung fu movie ever made.
That's true. That'd actually be pretty dope. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Now I need to think about this.
Just like chill in his home theater when I know he's away. I'll be like, I'm just gonna go watch a movie at Quentin's house.
Watch Rififi at Quentin's house. Oh my God.
He would be on my side.
I bet you he has a print copy of Rififi somewhere. Like, he owns it. I almost can guarantee Quentin Tarantino would have that.
My goodness.
That's hilarious. Naomi, how about you? Would it be Oscar Isaac or would it be someone else? Whose stuff would you like to take? Not necessarily just who would you like to live with?
First of all, I respect Oscar's privacy. Like, I haven't checked his address. I haven't Googled his address on Google. I respect his privacy. Actually, my answer, I have two. But it's gonna make sense. So Drake and Del Toro, because they live in Toronto. They have a house in Toronto, and I know like the general vicinity of the house. And TPS, Toronto Police Service, I don't trust them. I'm pretty sure I'm smarter than them. So like I can actually plan a heist and steal everything from them. And like I can sell them or like have an auction house is like, yeah, I stole these items from these people and I'm going to sell it to the highest bidder because I'm a bad thief kind of thing. So I'm just being practical and it's close. So like I don't have to worry about, logistics that much. If I have a U-Haul truck, I can do it. So
that's true.
Yeah.
I don't know where Del Toro lives, but I believe what's his face is just like in the Bridle Path area. Like, I think that's where he is, right?
Yeah. Yeah. With the horrible. Does he have a basket court in his house?
I don't know. I don't.
Probably.
Yeah. See, I'm just being practical and thinking about money.
That's fair.
And,
You don't have to put too much of an expense into the heist because you could just Uber there. Really, you don't even need to.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Smart. I can do that.
There you go.
Okay. What about you, Rachel?
I would do Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves' house.
What?
Of course. I probably could have guessed that as well.
For several reasons. Number one, I hear he has a very cool motorcycle collection. And I feel like that, although I'm not sure if he keeps it at his house, kind of feel like he probably wouldn't, but maybe he does, and I'd like to see it. Number 2, he has had people break into his house, and he is super kind to them and like just like chats with them. So I feel like it would be an excellent opportunity to meet Keanu Reeves. That's what I'm gonna go for. So I'm gonna go with Keanu Reeves because I also feel like he would like. I'd just be curious to see how the man lives. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like it would be very simple and just very like chill. I also envision a lot of white. Like he's just very, very serene and just like a lot of white all over the place.
Linen white.
Yes. That's how I see Keanu. Just walking around with linen and just like, hello. And he'd see you and just be like, oh, are you lost? Like, are you okay? Like, is everything all right? And I think it would be an excellent way to spend a vacation in LA, quite frankly.
I tell you, I actually was robbed twice. I wasn't at home, but I was robbed twice. And if I see someone coming into my house, my first instinct will be, what's the nearest weapon that's near me? So I respect Keanu for like not going there, like not killing the intruders. So damn.
They also were like, I
them.
believe, like just kind of females who clearly were fans of his. Like they weren't looking to harm him.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's nasty.
But also, Naomi, just pro tip for anyone listening, keep a baseball bat by your bed. Go out, buy one, and it's keep one at like right at the front door as well, so when you answer the door. But that might be bad for home intrusion. But anyways, we can take that offline. But it's fine.
Rachel's tip.
Dakota, what's your would you rather?
I feel like the answer's actually been discussed already, and so the sales have been completely taken out of this question, but I'll ask it anyways. What iconic brand would you like to see make a comeback? Would it be Von Dutch and their trucker hats worn sideways, made famous by Ashton Kutcher? Or Juicy Couture with their velour tracksuits that specialize in ultra low-rise pants and crop tops that were all the rage at the time?
It was not just low-rise pants and crop tops. I just want to point that out. It was a matching zip up that was in the same material as the bottoms, and they were extreme. And it was just like a really nice kind of tracksuit situation. So obviously I'm going for the velour tracksuit because it is comfortable and it's like pretty fun. Like if you're chilly, you have a jacket. Like, you just put it in, it's raining, you got a hood, and just pop the hood on. And it's an excellent little tracksuit situation. And I feel like right now, or not now, but like I think like a trendy thing to wear these days is like workout gear, like athleisure is like a thing. And I feel like the velour suit could fit in very nicely with that. Although the problem is when we wore those, it was like kind of flared pants, because that was the thing back then, was like flared boot cut. Which is not a thing anymore. So I'm not sure. I guess it could be velour leggings, but that would look kind of strange. That would be weird. Like, I don't want to push it, guys. I mean, the velour tracksuit was perfect as it was. Okay. That's my 2 cents on that.
I assume yours is the same answer because you were also talking about the juicy tracksuit earlier.
Okay, well, I do love that shit, but I don't look good in that shit. So I have to go with the Von Dutch. I forgot the brand name already.
Yep.
Yeah, that. And also, like, recently I discovered how convenient to wear a baseball cap with a mask. Like, no one's gonna see you. No one's gonna recognize you. You're gone. You don't exist.
Have you seen a Von Dutch hat, though, Naomi?
Yeah, like, it was a huge thing in Japan, too. Yeah. It's hideous, but... Wait. Also, like, didn't they make a comeback briefly, like, a couple years ago before the thing that we're dealing with right now, before that shit hit?
I feel like Ed Hardy was kind of like a child of the Von Dutch. And then I don't know if trucker hats came back, but I don't find them to be subtle, which is why I asked you if you've ever actually seen one, because they're not subtle. They don't help you blend into things. And
but like, no one's gonna see my face.
Yeah.
Like, the cap's gonna cover my face.
I suppose.
Just a bit. Okay. But no, I see your point. Yeah, it draws attention to that horrendous logo. Yeah.
Good old Von Dutch. What about you, Dakota? Which one?
And the key is you have to have the hat slightly sideways.
Obviously.
Too. That's the
Oh,
key.
damn it.
Obviously.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm still going to go with the hat.
That's
Yeah.
true. Actually, that's a very good point, Cody. If you want to have it done, it has to be like at a jaunty angle, and therefore doesn't cover up your face properly.
Okay, fuck. I'm just going to look like a douchebag then. You know what? In that case, I will convert. I will go back to the tracksuit, even though I'm gonna look horrible in velour. I'm gonna go with that. Sorry,
Dakota. What's yours? Now, before you answer, though, keep in mind Puff Daddy had really cool velour tracksuits. Like, it wasn't just thing for ladies. It was like men looked pretty dope in them too. So, just putting it out there.
I really have never been like a tracksuit kind of guy. Like, sweatpants really aren't my thing. I never like wearing them unless I like absolutely have to. So I'm going with the Von Dutch hat. I'm going to be that douchebag.
Didn't you recently buy an A24 hat?
Yes, I did.
Is that a trucker hat too? Or no, am I making
it
that
is
up?
not. No, that was...
It is not. It was snapback though, right?
No, it's not even.
Oh.
It was an adjustable strap, but I can't remember what the style is, but it's the nerdy hipster style that's popular right now, where it's kind of a smaller hat and a flatter brim.
Man of the people. Man of the people.
Yes, I am that douchebag. Thank you for calling me out, Rachel. I appreciate it.
I thought it for some reason. I thought it was a trucker hat for some reason. I don't know why. I thought A24 would come out with the trucker hat.
No, but I do have a trucker hat that I got from work that I'm not going to talk about on the show. If you want, I can send you a picture of it later, though.
Yes, please.
Please.
Okay,
Yes, please.
I will send a picture to the two of you afterwards of my work trucker hat that I wear quite often.
Yay.
What's the point of the trucker hat? Is it like to ventilate the back of your head? Like you can... It's like not as sweaty? Is that the whole point?
I don't know.
Is that why it's
Rachel,
mesh in
I'm
the
not
back?
a trucker.
Valid point, Dakota. Valid point. Very valid. But okay,
right.
so you go for Von Dutch and one for Von Dutch and 2 for Juicy, which is the correct answer.
Yes. Now we've gone far too off the rails for this, and I think we need to wrap it up. So, Naomi, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's always so much fun having you, even if we spend too much time making fun of me. What have you been
ganging up on you?
Yeah. What have you been working on, and like where can people find your work as well?
So I'm actually trying to catch up with my movie reviews. I'm currently editing movie reviews for Oishii Kyushoku Final Battle that we saw at TJFF. So the school meals time Final Battle, the title I still don't remember. Hopefully the videos will be up soon on my English and Japanese channel. You can find that by searching Naomi Platt, Platt, on YouTube.
Awesome. I will make sure.
And thank you so much for having me.
Of course. I will make sure to link to those in the show notes. And Rachel, where can listeners find you, and what have you been working on?
As usual, it's rachelkh.com, or social for Twitter and Instagram is _RachelKH. I have a review for Exclaim coming up for Clifford the Big Red Dog, which is a very big left turn from Bling Ring. But if you have kids, or if you're just into kind of kid movies, that'll be up on Exclaim sometime next week. And also I did an interview for Last of the Right Whales. Apologies, I always mess that title up. But I did an interview with that shelf with the director Nadine, and that is still up for, obviously, if anybody wants to read it. It was a lot of fun chatting with her.
Awesome. Well, you can follow the show on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at contrazoompod. And if you have seen The Bling Ring, let us know your thoughts. Send an email to contrazoompod@gmail.com. Thank you to Eric and Kevin Smale for the theme music, and to Stephanie Pryor for the logo design. If you like to listen to podcasts on YouTube, we do post all episodes there too. Thanks for checking us out.
You're just like, check out this aspect ratio, bro. Like, you're gonna love this shit.